Should I put on the light?
Yo, it's on, by the way.
No. You talking about Bin Laden?
Can you check the stream? See,
I have my phone.
it's on the fight site.
Make sure that your fight site is.
That's fine. I'm just gonna check right
site.
now.
My balls.
Oh, fight site. No.
My balls.
What about your balls? Oh, there we go. Oh, wait.
Bro, this is a symbol of I don't work for the man.
Oh, it's working. I'm trying to see what's in.
Oh God! Oh, this is recording.
No, it's not recording. It's just live.
No, but if someone plays this back.
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, that's all that.
Should we just go shirtless?
What?
Should we both go shirtless?
No, we shouldn't.
Oh God! Oh, this is recording. No, if someone plays this back. Me, I'm okay. Should we just go shirtless? Bro, I look like that monkey from what's that? What's the Aladdin with the monkey?
Yo,
is that one?
I'm sending it to you.
I don't have my phone on me.
Where's your phone?
In my room.
Your room.
In her room, sorry.
Who's?
Your room.
Oh, then I'll go get it. Then go get it. You need to share.
I look like that monkey from what's that?
What does it even mean?
Your line is curved?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What?
Go look at it.
He has a perfect hairline.
You certainly are correct, but I don't know what else to respond to that.
What do you mean curved?
I don't know. I was just being.
I have a widow's peak. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it goes like this. See how mine goes like this and then down? You.
Yeah, you're a man.
And?
You have more hair on your face.
Share. Copy link. Posting.
This is why I love Louis Capaldi.
What do you usually
Oh my
use
God.
to... Skype?
You're about to go live and you're just playing stuff.
Are you live right now?
We are live. Come join Matt and I to talk shit, discuss MMA, and we also have special guest John Nash. John Nash swinging by.
I'm not going through surgery again.
You won't go to the hospital, right? Again.
Swinging.
I did go to the
Reminder, this is live.
Oh.
Third time to talk. So
Swinging by.
We say be seen and not heard. You should be.
To discuss the UFC lawsuit.
I wanna ruin our friendship. Oh, so now you can make food.
No, I'm saying
You do. Oh, I didn't know you were a communist now. Comrade Rissy. Comrade Rissy.
We're live.
I'm really good at insulting my friends' wives.
Yeah, it's a great.
Well, like in a nice way.
It's a really, really good
Quality.
Insults are welcome. Insults are mandatory.
Yeah. I agree.
I would say insults are mandatory.
Someone's watching us.
How do I? Okay, so now I gotta go on Discord and call Ryan. All right.
Oh,
Ran.
Yo, Ryan.
All right, Nicole.
God, I hope there's someone watching that and you still
Nicole. Where's Ran? Nope. That is gonna be Leopold. Okay.
Why do we have cars on? Bro, I'm not in this Discord anymore.
No.
I have no idea. I wonder if anyone.
Let me figure this out.
Iris.
Iris. There's Ryan. Message Ryan. Hello. Lady.
Are we on?
We are 100% live. Everyone, check the link below. It is it, Ryan. What?
Oh, my bad.
Hello. To donate to Tuman's legal fund. I don't know how to. Hello, it is it, Ryan. How do I get in here? Ryan, go to Discord.
Welcome to how the fight site used to operate, as we continuously have no idea to use technology and are ill prepared.
All of us have the technological know-how of about a group of boomers in an old age home.
We were boomers.
Well, I am. Our actual boomer left.
Can we not do this type of humor? I'm going to go back to the insults.
Oh,
Then you're gonna get.
bro, you're 25. You have no excuse for being a boomer. I at least can like pretend because I'm, Okay, there we go. Is anyone there? Chat rate, concurrent viewers. We got 4 concurrent viewers. This is phenomenal. Start virtual camera. I am ready, Ben. You're never ready. Start voice call.
All right. So
Once-
guys,
Wait, we gotta wait for Ryan to answer the voice call.
can you stop with it?
Oh, this voice is gonna be the entire stream. Oh yeah. Oh
Hey,
yeah.
what's up, guys?
Let's go.
Hi, everybody. As the only one with interview experience, I'd like to welcome on.
I interviewed more people than you have even been interviewed by.
Not even well. I'd like to welcome.
Not even.
Can you let me finish? All right, I'd like to everyone to introduce you guys. This is Ryan Wagner. He is probably the best analyst on Twitter, even though he shit posts most of the time. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing great. How about you guys? A little bit sick, but
Oh,
No, that's okay.
damn. That's
I'm blonde now, so we're even.
You're sick. He's blonde. It's awful.
holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that is, I like the haircut, Matt.
It was for a kids' party. We did it for the year-end awards in the gym, and I need to buzz it as soon as possible.
Really leaning into the little stepbrother thing.
Got me there.
It's not hard. That's the thing. You
No.
make it sound like it's difficult to
not.
absolutely destroy you in every single possible way, including in jiu-jitsu. It's really not.
Oh my god, we get it. Brown belt.
No, we get it. You're maybe a purple belt.
Are you a purple belt now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got a purple belt.
I want to fight him.
Nice.
No.
Oh, is
You won a jiu-jitsu match.
Is a wrestling match
Oh.
not more impressive than a fight? Because I'm more impressed with Sad Goliath than any MMA fight. So it's a fight. I don't need to.
Oh, can't teach you just get along. No, Dan. No.
So Ryan, I'm gonna take over the hosting of the stream. I had a idea of us putting together hypothetical matchups.
Before you begin.
Can you not cut me off in the middle?
No, before you begin, we actually should probably shout out the reason we're doing this.
Oh yeah, go.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take over the whole stream. So, for those of you who are currently watching, all 5 of you at the moment, it's really important that we discuss why we're doing this. We're doing this to raise money for Tuman's Legal Fund. He's currently in the detention center in Aurora, Colorado, and his hearing right now is scheduled to be in February. We're trying to work it out so that we can hire him an attorney in the nearer future, hopefully, for him and his wife to be able to get Tuman to be able to stay here and seeking asylum, which he so rightfully deserves. Our first attempt with attorneys was unfortunately not successful, so we unfortunately need to raise money again. So we do appreciate anything that you can give. Please check the link in the description below to donate whatever you can. If you can't, we totally understand, but feel free to share it and see who might be able to donate to it. Really appreciate everyone joining us, and I'm going to let Matt take over whatever the hell he was about to say.
Perfect. So Ryan, I think you might be the best expert at this, but what I was thinking we do is we do hypothetical matchups of all-time greats with their worst performances in mind. So, like
That's
the worst
interesting.
of Sakuraba versus the worst of Zuluzinho, and try to make the worst matchup we can, both by quality and depression.
All right. How much does the lawyer cost? We've never had to hire a lawyer before.
This particular attorney would cost roughly $15,000.
Holy
Oh my
shit!
God.
They don't make it easy to claim asylum. That's
They
wild.
really, really don't want people to do that.
This is like with Tuman's situation too. Like he's a Buryat, an ethnic Buryat from Buryatia, and there's like verifiable evidence that Russia is using the war in Ukraine as like a soft genocide against their ethnic minorities. So he's literally like has evidence that his people are being genocided, and the U.S. is just like, nah, just wait here and then pay a bunch of money.
I mean, it's capitalism. Isn't that the American dream?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Nobody
By the way,
understands that.
just so we're clear, it's okay, don't worry about it. The thing is that I refuse to believe Ryan's never hired a lawyer. To be honest, I thought the same thing.
Hey, I do my own legal representation. Thank you very much.
He's been busy at the doctor's office.
It's Canada. They don't
Sovereign
prosecute
citizen.
anybody. It's the you know, the anarcho-communist wonderland. So why would you need a lawyer? There's no such thing as laws.
I once got a parking ticket.
You
That
once
was a
got
lie.
a
I don't
parking
drive.
ticket? That's cute.
No, that was a lie. I don't even drive.
Same.
I live in a walkable neighborhood.
What? Wait, do you guys have jaywalking in good old Canada?
Like, do we do it or is it a crime?
Is it a crime like it is here?
Both.
Probably officially, but like they don't actually do anything to you for it, do they?
You can get
Are they like
got ticketed.
jaywalking police in New York?
I got ticketed for
Seriously?
It was
What the
right
fuck?
after the
New York, baby.
the Hamas thing, and I walked by. I was just like walking by, and the cops saw me and searched my bag.
You live in a police state, man. What the fuck?
Bro, what?
I
What?
was wrapping him up, remember?
Getting tickets for
Right, I do remember
jaywalking?
this. That's ridiculous. It's okay. I got arrested because in 2013 I was given a citation for riding my bike on the sidewalk, and then they arrested me and put me in prison for the night. It's not
What
a
have we
joke.
been doing the last
What are we?
year?
I don't know. All right, Matt has a very important question for you, Ryan. We feel like you're the perfect person to, you know, to answer this. So, Matt, take it away.
We're done. What are some of the all-time best matchups between fighters that we can make hypothetically at the absolute worst they've ever looked? So, like, 56-year-old Sakuraba versus any version of Zuluzinho is like my go-to. Or
Wait, so we're taking like all-time great fighters and like matching them up with the shittiest people we can?
No.
Much better than that.
No.
Tyron Woodley versus anybody.
No.
Any form of Tyron
No,
Woodley.
alright, so listen, it's the
Prime
worst
Tyron Woodley.
version of the all-time best fighter against a worse version of another all-time best
So
fighter.
like the version of Sakuraba that was in Metamoris with Renzo Gracie versus
Here, I'll put it in a way you can understand. The Tyron Woodley that fought Colby Covington.
versus the Robbie Lawler that fought Colby Covington.
Yeah, pretty much.
You could do this all with Colby's opponents.
All right,
Basically everyone Colby has fought. Jorge
Ryan,
when he fought
Tony
Colby.
Ferguson in 2024 versus BJ Penn versus Yair Rodriguez.
Oh my God, that's such a good call to you.
Tony.
Also,
Yair
Tony, I
would
didn't
beat
get
them
arrested
both
for robbing
in
the
the same
bakery.
fight.
Okay, I got arrested for taking over the bakery's ownership through illegal methods, as you know, Jew.
Kanye.
Continue. Yeah, well, listen, thank you for your question. Yeah.
So we need some awful matchups. And
One of them has to be Zuluzinho.
no, we need some awful matchups from MMA's premier shit poster.
I feel like we can do
2023
some stuff with the Aldo that fought Merab.
No, he's still okay. That's not. I want downright the like the Tim.
Put him against like a shitty cage hugger.
What about the Tim Sylvia that fought Ray Mercer? What's another terrible?
Oh my
God.
God. What the hell did Tim Sylvia do to become MMA's punching bag? Aside from that one video he posted of himself in the gym with Bring Me.
Did you see when he got fat?
Which
He
time?
got so fat.
Oh, he's like 469 now.
What?
Yeah.
Oof.
I bought a cameo because
Fedor versus Bader 2023. You mean the Fedor version, not the Bader version, right? The bottom right there.
All right. UFC.
Kobe.
How about UFC Bader when he fought a good opponent
I hate. I
Remember
hate
when he
you.
fought Anthony Johnson?
No, I don't remember that.
That was such a great
Okay,
fight.
it's not like it's been brought up to me 1,000 times that he took a shot from 14 feet out of the cage. Okay, and then
And
held
then he
on to
tried to
it.
Kimura him.
Bro, he tried to Kimura him while he was getting mounted. I can't.
Ryan, how about the Jan that fought Marab versus the Aljo that fought Jan the first time?
They're both just belling up the whole time, going into the fetal position.
I need.
That's a great matchup. Glass-chinned Chuck Liddell. Who's in the glass?
Oh, don't be mean.
Come on.
Okay, Chuck Liddell in 2024
No, not that Chuck Liddell.
versus
No, Rashad Evans, Chuck Liddell.
No, I got it. The Chuck Liddell that fought Tito Ortiz in Bellator.
It wasn't Bellator.
It was.
I thought it was Combat.
I thought it was Bellator. No.
No, that was a one-off pay-per-view event. That was Bellator.
Oh, it's so much worse. Okay, that Chuck Liddell.
That was Combat, right? Oh my God, they talked about
That Chuck Liddell versus Bryce Mitchell after Josh Emmett hit him.
Oh, wait, hold on. Chuck Liddell versus Rashad Evans.
Good that Kobe was on the same page as me with the Mitchell doing the steady.
Yeah, Dan, put them in the chat. Oh, I have a great one. The Alberto Del Rio that fought Mirko Cro Cop with the mask.
With the mask.
With the mask. Versus, do we do Jushin's Thunder?
Ryan, check the Discord. Apparently.
Golden Boy. That's who.
Yo, Sandro!
What am I looking for?
Okay. We should get him on. Sandro, you want in on this?
Yeah, but also,
We're gonna get so much trouble.
I've gotten too much trouble this year.
Yeah, it's very impressive that you haven't been canceled. Yeah,
I've almost been arrested.
you have, but like I don't think that counts as cancellation. I've been arrested. I'm a family man.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the fight site. All right.
Sometimes good boys do bad things.
Okay, where's the good boy?
Current Cerrone versus Connor right after the Poirier trilogy. Ooh.
That is a very shitty fight.
No, Cerrone's still a southpaw.
What do you what? Yo, anything you can say off camera, you come and say it on camera. Come here, Riz. Don't laugh at us in the background. You come here right now. Don't talk shit from behind the pillar. Okay.
All right. Gomi, what was it?
Current year Gomi versus who would Guida withdrawing from mech? Oh my God.
Guida.
Guida. Yeah, I mean like. It's obviously Guida.
The corpse of Kevin Randleman.
That's what? You did it? Kevin Randleman recovering from a staph infection versus Mark Hunt not recovered from the staph infection yet.
Current Mark Hunt versus current... No, not current Mark.
Mark Hunt probably could still knock a dude out.
Current Mark Coleman versus current Chuck Liddell.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
What if you ran back Henan Brow and TJ Dillashaw right now?
TJ, obviously.
TJ,
Yo, Henan versus...
No, but Henan, listen.
TJ with the shoulder injury in the Aljo fight.
Brow.
You think so? I don't think TJ needs two arms.
Is Brow allowed to roid?
Brow is allowed to do whatever he wants. He probably won't even show up for the fight. Have you seen he's been booked in like 6 fights in some Mexican promotion or whatever and canceled every one?
Oh, yeah. Yo, current Barao versus current Miguel Torres.
Torres still alive?
Barely.
Miguel Torres is still alive. I just checked his. I just checked. So he's currently deceased.
I thought Kyle did like a memoriam thing for him on his Patreon.
The Bob Sapp that fought the sumo wrestler Ananachi in Ryzen.
Usunarashi.
Where they actually went 3 rounds.
Bob Sapp now versus Akibono now. That's probably true.
Yo, bring back like the giant Silva fights.
Yo, bring back Akibono from the dead.
Oh, current Takayama that fought Fry, so he's paralyzed.
Oh.
Yeah, he's paralyzed, broke his neck.
What? Yeah. Oh, probably wrestling, right? Yeah. That sucks. DC and the Stipe children versus Ngannou fight. This is pre or post blowing his ACL out.
Oh, here's a good one. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic.
Fucking respect him? No, I will not. One-armed Burns versus submissive and breedable Colby. What the fuck?
Burns.
Colby, holy shit! Submissive and breedable Colby.
Crash. Cosmo with shingles.
Cosmo? Oh, Cosmo, it was confirmed he had shingles? That's so disturbing.
Ooh, current day. BJ Penn versus current day Matt Hughes.
Current day BJ Penn might still lose that fight.
Yo, Ryan,
Did Matt
what's your
Hughes ever
take
get
on
over the train
Prime
thing?
Connor versus Prime BJ?
I think
Danny
Connor would
probably
kick
the
his
best
ass. He's way too big.
I think he murders BJ.
Prime for Prime?
Yeah. I don't think
BJ would he'd get popped really hard once in the face, and he would get so sad.
Like he could take
He would
the
just
shot.
be way too depressed
he
to
could
win
take
that
the
fight.
shot. He just wouldn't do anything.
No, he could absolutely take the shot. He would just he'd eat it and then be like, "Shit, that sucked. I guess I'm gonna lose this fight." Like, have you ever seen him lose like a minute and then come back to win?
But who gases first?
Prime BJ Penn had Marinovich. He had Tsunami card.
I don't think BJ would gas.
What about Prime Penn, but he has Goggins in his corner?
You gotta be you, BJ!
I think BJ would kill David Goggins in the war after that fight.
Oh god,
yo, that's
now
what
I kind of want that to happen.
Well, that's what we should do. Try to match good fighters with good camps, but in the worst possible way. Oh god.
I gave John the Discord link, so now we just wait.
Oh, we're gonna have to be serious?
For this, we'll have to be serious. Yeah, we're gonna be. By the way, for all of you who don't realize, John Nash is gonna be joining the stream, and you can ask him about the UFC lawsuit. We're actually gonna see if this interview is gonna. We should probably record this.
I'm gonna have to be what's it called? I have to do my actual job being a journalist.
Yeah, you have to be a journalist or pretend journalist.
I mean, I would try against Seth Daniels.
Oh, thank you, Miguel, for sharing this. By the way, really appreciate you, bro.
Guys, we're gonna also be donating to Tuman's Defense Fund. Ben's gonna donate a certain amount. I'm gonna donate $25.
That is true.
So
all of these things are capable through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior.
Until Ben's, I can't say that on stream.
Until my people kill him again. I know. Listen, okay.
I like how we just started recording as we said that.
Yeah, well, listen, okay. That's not. Listen, it's okay to make fun of Christians in the U.S.
No, it's actually making fun of Jews.
What?
You said you.
It's fine. I'm Jewish and you're by proxy.
I hope not.
Yo, listen, okay. Where's the support? I'm going to be donating right now, $50 to the fund.
Dude besides Ben? Kobe? This is Matt. I was one of the original Fight Site people. And
okay. Original's a little bit much.
All right. I was on the Fight Site. I was on the Fight Site.
He was one of our groupies.
You were a groupie.
And then I got hired.
You were a groupie that got hired.
And then now I'm the only one who still
writes.
We
pay people?
What?
People get paid here?
I get paid now for writing for Flow.
Not for the Fight Site.
For Flow.
Let's make that. When was the last time you wrote?
Okay, so we hired you and somebody else is paying you.
Yeah. Wait.
I stopped working for you guys because I realized it was slave labor.
Wow, that's not true.
Oh no, I got paid for the EUG. I got paid for the EUG article. Yeah. I was the one who got actual deals to write for articles.
I got the merch.
Yeah, but I got
we got the merch.
Kobe, I'm Ben's adopted son who does jiu-jitsu, and that's why I have stupid hair right now, because I experimented with being Brazilian.
He experimented with being Gordon Ryan.
You guys are like two guinea pigs, just fighting for your next human. I did this, I did that. Relax.
Anything you can say off camera, you come here and say it on camera. Okay, wifey? Get over here and talk here. You don't talk from the kitchen, you talk here. Okay, you make yourself your mac and cheese and stop insulting us.
Yo, hobble over, cripple.
Yeah, let's go. We're making fun of my wife's knee surgery now.
Oh, yeah. Real serious. Can't see this chat. I mean, is MMA journalism? Is it really real?
Yeah, John is.
John's a real journalist. I'm not.
So we're gonna have half of MMA's actual journalism squad on here.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know Ben changes the subject whenever you come up.
All right, so everybody got the memo, or the real crux of the relationship between me and the Fight Site.
Okay, I need to add what's his name?
John Nash.
Yeah, I gotta add.
John, renowned journalist who does his job better than we do ours.
There we go. Where is he? I need to see how he joined.
God, I love how no one here knows that you.
No one is good at John Nash. There we go. Hello. I'm going to friend him. I think sending a friend request so we can add him.
Ben using technology for the.
Listen. Okay. First of all, it's not for the first time. It's the fourth time. Number one. Number two. That's pretty much it. That was basically it. I just don't know how to add somebody to a call because I'm very good at this. You're a boomer. Okay. I actually don't know how to add somebody to a call.
Oh my God.
By the way, this is scintillating programming. This is phenomenal.
Remind me to tell you about this later.
Okay. I'll remind you to tell me about this later. All right. Ryan, you're youngish, right?
I'm like 27. I'm getting old, man.
All right. How do you add someone to a call?
Should be a button somewhere. There's like a fucking ton of buttons on Discord.
Do you know how?
Nah,
Yo,
it's gotta be one of these buttons.
Okay. Joe! Setting up an alibi on January 6th. Interesting. Joe!
I'm with Chris Jericho's wife.
Oh my God. It's good.
I'm going to sign an NDA.
He wants to know what I smell like.
I don't know. COVID burned out my nose.
COVID burned out, really?
I
I don't think it was the COVID that burned out your nose. Something burned out your nose, but it ain't your COVID. I don't know how to add somebody to a phone call. So I think what I need to do is
All right. Thank you for your service, Ryan. Thoughts and prayers.
No, I'm gonna add. I know. I want Ryan on the call too. I'm sure he has some questions to ask. It's a pretty important interview that I'm fucking up right now.
Again, this is how the fight site operates.
Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to Ryan. I'm gonna start a group with you and with John. I think I'm gonna try and do that. Oh wait, Vel is messaging me. Maybe he's helping. Nope, just sending me a meme. You're strong. What is this? Stand Pratt. I have no.
Great radio.
Oh, that's great.
Phenomenal radio.
Okay.
So Joe, if you're still watching, we need some horrific matchups between all-time greats when both are clearly out of their prime. So, for example, the Woodley that fought. Well, Woodley's not an all-time great, but Woodley versus Colby. The Woodley that fought Colby versus the Robbie Lawler that fought Colby. So, if you have any examples, let me know in the chat as soon as Ben stops. Well, I can't see anything. You're still on the Discord. Please jump in at any time.
Literally, if anybody knows, just join. Happy January 6th anniversary to all who celebrate, Ben.
They have Hollywood, not DC.
Yeah, we don't have DC yet. We're working on that still.
I mean, actually, kind of do now.
Bo Jiden.
You guys actually probably have DC.
I know, it's so great, by the way. Really cool how we do such a good job of tampering down all that stuff.
Do we owe Kanye an apology?
We don't owe him an apology. He owes us an apology. Even though he gave us one, and it was pretty good, I'm still waiting for my shoes.
I have a pair of Yeezys, I think.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. So John is in the Discord. I think what I'm going to do is this. Okay. Ryan, you want to hop in general chat? And I'll, that's where we'll do it.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, hop in, Jen. All right, talk to you soon. Hey.
Great radio, guys.
Listen, okay? If there's one thing I can say, considering we've never done any sort of fundraiser, I think we're doing okay.
I just want to say my suggestion is we just streamed us playing SmackDown versus Raw 2008, which we will be doing later. If you guys want to do that. Thank you for the comment, Rissy. You want to hobble over here and say it to my face?
Definitely.
Fucking cripple.
While I make you mac and cheese.
You made it for yourself.
You made it for yourself. Let's be real, okay?
Yeah, and then you were like,
A Sunset?
Sunset was secretly in his prime versus Davey. Davey's just an all-time great. This is also how the matchmaking in UFC at 300 IRL is. Dude, Diamond Elbow, is the Discord for Patreons only? Yes, it's only for Patreons.
Patrons.
Patreons. He wrote Patreons.
It was patrons. FYI.
Also,
Woodley Lawler, the answer is Woodley again.
Diamond, to answer your question further, you also have to be over the age of 18.
he in college?
Yeah, he's in college. I'm just messing with him. My ass is not giving Ryan money. Don't worry, you're not giving Ryan money. You're giving Fino
They don't
money.
pay me shit.
Yeah, you're giving Fino money actually if you do so.
Oh, it was Feno.
Fino. Oh, I gotta go talk. Let me just link
Do you
this.
guys remember SmackDown versus Raw 2008?
I remember this
I want to play the
because
GM
I
mode.
was also in 2008.
That was my first video game. I want to play the GM mode again and just draft the wrestlers. I kept playing. I would play. You know how weird I was as a kid. I played with Gregory Helms.
You are weird. That is weird. That's a
It's
very weird
super
thing
weird.
to do. That's so
I think
odd.
John
When I
Nash is
started
here,
watching
guys.
wrestling, he was like,
Is John in?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, John, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me? Look at that.
John.
It only took me about 4 years to figure that out.
It's okay. It took
So-
us much longer to figure out how to get it to you.
we were. If you
Yeah,
ever want to
he-
watch it back, we were trying to do this live. So
Oh,
You are-
I can't see who's
That's
Ben
okay.
and Matt, but I can recognize your voices slightly. But smart of you to put me on Discord, put an old man like me, a Luddite, on something he's never used before.
My friend,
And then-
listen to me. If you were able to hear us pleading with the chat to tell us how to add you to a call, I promise you wouldn't feel remotely bad about this.
Sorry, bro. Skype is way worse. Skype is so much worse.
Okay.
I'm sure by the way.
This is Sharam. We got Ryan and Matt is with me.
hi, John. How are you?
Hey.
Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. We are glad to have you here. Also, just a quick update. I don't know if you remember. I'm sure you remember when we had the call to talk about making a MMA organization. So about
Yes.
that, so we realized that all the people that were talking to us about investing, once they found out they couldn't exploit fighters, decided to go away.
Can we get back
That's
to
a
everyone
given,
watching?
yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Like legitimately every single person we talked to, and then the person whose job it was to try and fundraise for us ditched us.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I mean the appeal of MMA is basically everybody looks at 80% margins, and that makes them want to get involved in the sport. Sadly,
So that actually brings up my first question, which is it possible for this sport to function with A, 50-50 split in revenue, and B, with the UFC or another organization not being a monopoly, seeing with the impending doom of one and all the other failed promotions of the past?
I mean I think the sport could obviously operate on a higher wage share for the fighters because the profit margins are so high. So I mean if you just look at that, how much revenue is coming into like the UFC. It's a given that we could pay more. So I think 50-50, yeah, it's UFC's margins, EBITDA margins are like 60% now.
That's crazy.
It's rough. It's frustrating. But like, here's my question: is it possible for any organization to really do that and become something similar to the UFC, or would it just have to be the UFC doing it themselves in order for that to happen right now?
Well, I would think it'd have to be the fighters, some mechanism giving the fighters leverage to get more money, because the problem is anybody that gets in this space to compete with UFC, the one and PFLs, what they're pitching to their investors is not that we're going to treat fighters great, we're going to have this intense competition with the UFC. Their pitching is we are going to be just like the UFC, maybe a Pepsi to their Coca-Cola.
Right.
It will cut off a portion of the market, and we will pay fighters similar to what the UFC does, and we will keep all the money. No one's making the pitch that we are going to be in, head to head with UFC, and the fighters we're going to have to pay a ton to the fighters to compete with the UFC. That's not That's why people are interested in this sport. That's why these guys can raise hundreds of millions of dollars, because they think there's a chance that they could have a junior UFC. And so I think the way you would have to get the fighters to get paid more is give some mechanism where the fighters had leverage against the promotions, and that you could get other people besides one promoter involved. I mean, that's the theory behind the Ali Act. The theory behind the Ali Act, which probably is dead in the water because most fans and even most fighters probably oppose it. But the theory behind it is you don't have if the promoter can't control their own title like pro wrestling, they have to, if the titles belong and the rankings belong to the fighters, And not only does that mean that a promoter cannot demand that you sign with them to get a title shot, that also means that multiple promoters can enter the field and bid for those guys that are either the champions or highly ranked that have a chance to fight for the title.
Is there any chance, aside, because it seems like, as you say before, the fighters are kind of against the Ali Act, is there any way, aside from the lawsuit that's currently pending, that the UFC would be forced to increase the revenue share given to the fighters?
I mean, the only way they're going to be forced to increase the revenue share is with competition. I mean, that's what we saw in other sports. We can talk, people will bring up unions, but I'm the biggest union guy in the world. If you ever see my Twitter page, but unions in sports, what causes sport pay to go up? There was a union in baseball in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, and the wage share actually went down. What caused it to go up is they got rid of the reserve clause, competition, people bidding. And so the one way the UFC would pay more if there was competition. And I guess if we had a judgment in the antitrust case where contracts were shorter, would theoretically competition more likely because the big name fighters. I mean, that's the other problem. The problem with MMA is it's not just like other sports. Bench players matter, right? And boxing and MMA is basically just boxing. We just pretend it isn't. But there's a handful of people that generate all the revenue. And so as long as you have that handful of people locked up and they can't go anywhere, then you control everything because everybody else has to sign with you to fight those guys to make money. And so the secret to getting revenue is not that the UFC has to lose those top fighters, but those top fighters have to have the option of going somewhere else. As long as they have the option and their opponents have the option of going somewhere else, the UFC would be forced to, if they want to keep them, would be forced to pay more.
Speaking of that lawsuit that you brought up, let's say best case scenario, everything goes against the UFC's way. Realistically, how does that change the landscape? And where does that put us, let's say 5 years post lawsuit? If you had to guess, based on what based on what the extensive knowledge and coverage you've put into this lawsuit, what do you think could happen realistically, and how good would it get for the fighters post lawsuit being settled? Yeah.
Well, there's two lawsuits going on right now. Correct. There's the current one, the Kung Lee versus Zuffa, and then there's a second case that comes in after this, the Johnson v. Zuffa. Now, the current case is only about damages because they've kicked the can on injunctive relief, which means they're asking the court to step in and change the UFC's behavior to the Johnson case. So really, because the UFC signed that ESPN deal a few years ago, there's no existential threat to the UFC. Okay. The jury could go in favor of the fighters and say you owe the fighters $1 billion, and it could be trebled to $3 billion. Tremendous amount of money. That's not going to kill the UFC because the UFC is so valuable property. Now TKO with WWE, they can go take a loan. They've already taken a loan for up to close to $3 billion before, right? Mm-hmm. When they bought the company, back when it didn't make nearly as much money, they can go get a loan for $3 billion and start and spend. They make, their profits are going to be in the 4 to 5. They're going to be more profits after the next TV deal, but right now their profits are around $400 million a year. So they can take a portion of those profits to pay the loan, cover those damages. And so the best case scenario right now for fighters, if they win, after the appeal process and there's not a settlement, because even if they win, the plaintiffs they might settle to make sure there's no appeal. It's the other thing. So the UFC might lose a $3 billion treble damage settlement. They might come to the plaintiff and say, listen, we will settle for half that because do you really want to risk going to the appeal process in the Supreme Court and possibly losing? And so that damage is going to go down no matter what, even if they lost. So the fighters, the best case out of this case right now is the fighters that fought for the UFC before will get some money. That's the best case. Now, long term, after the Johnson case, the best case scenario for the fighters, because actually the Johnson fighters are not eligible as much damage money because so many of them signed class action waivers that they won't get any damages. The best case scenario for them is that they win the case and the court and judge comes in and says something along the lines of what they're asking for is none of your contracts are exclusive. Everybody in the UFC now has an open contract. They can go fight anywhere, or maximum length of time of the UFC contract is 1 year.
are we approaching territory, or are we even in it where the UFC is too big to fail, and is it now the institution of MMA?
Well, I mean, yeah, we're in some ways we are in that, because even if they lose terribly in this case, they make so much money. I mean, I was talking to MMA on Point, and they had a video about how the Ali Act would destroy MMA, and I said that wouldn't happen. Even the antitrust suit or the Ali Act would not destroy the UFC, because if you put the Ali Act and said the UFC can't use their titles, they make so much money they can outbid anybody, right?
Yes.
The only thing it would force them to do is if they want to retain that position as the one spot where you find all the top fighters, they'd have to pay more, because the John Jones and Ngannou's in the future could just go somewhere else, and maybe it won't sell as much as if it was in the UFC, but it'd sell enough and they get a high percentage, they'd make more, so the UFC has to match that. But
so as you
I guess
my apologies, keep going.
No, I guess what you say, the point is UFC is so big, so much money, that they're not at risk of suddenly disappearing or going out of business. That's not going to happen. The risk to them is that their market share is, I think there's no matter what, they will be the dominant number one promoter. The risk to them is that, kind of like what happened to Kleenex. Kleenex is, everybody knows what a Kleenex is, and they don't know what, no one uses the name tissue, but Kleenex is only about 45 to 50% of the market in the U.S. There's other brands that take up the other 50%. I think that's the worst case scenario. That's kind of the risk to the UFC, that they're 45 to 50, instead of 95% of the market, they're 45% of the market, 50% of the market, and then two or three other, multiple players are taking up the rest of the market.
You brought up Ngannou and the bidding for, in the future, if anything would come to pass with the UFC being a smaller promotion, not smaller, but having less market share, they'd have to bid for John Jones and Ngannou. Ever since, I guess you can call it the debacle with the way the UFC handled Francis Ngannou, has there been any changes that to the UFC contracts in regards to how they contract their champions? And do you know of any internal feeling about the UFC given the success Ngannou has had financially post his stint in the UFC?
We have some changes. We know that after the antitrust lawsuit in 2017, they introduced the sunset clause that Ngannou took advantage. And then a couple years after that, they introduced the class action waiver. And since they introduced the class action waiver, the contracts, since Ngannou left, they have a new sunset clause provision that is, I wouldn't even call it a sunset anymore. Ngannou says 5 years after you sign this agreement, the contract is terminated. Basically, that's what his agreement. That's what everybody at that period said. The new contracts say 5 years after your first fight, so not after when you sign it, after your first fight, which could be several months after you sign it, the contract is terminated, but it's put on pause if you're suspended for any reason either from a USADA or some outside body or athletic commission. The way it's worded, I mean, I've ran it by lawyers. A lot of them think that would include medical suspensions. I would add time to it. And if the UFC says you're turning down fights that are acceptable, in other words, you're offering your fights and you're just turning them down for no good reason, they can extend it too. So it's like there's no real 5-year sunset anymore. There's no one now signing contracts can do what Ngannou did.
So basically, they made it impossible for another Ngannou to happen.
They made it where to do what Ngannou did would mean you'd have to fight and you'd have to wait. A 5-year sunset would be a 6, 7, maybe 8-year sunset.
Wow.
So there's no soul just waiting it out.
Is there any way, I mean, aside from the massive amount of resources a fighter would need to be able to challenge this, how is this legal in any term? Is there any way that someone would be able to challenge this at all?
Well, a lot of people that look at it say these are not legal contracts. I mean, we've all heard, I think Jonathan Snowden, remember he did that article about the Eddie Alvarez contract? He had an attorney, not an attorney, but a labor expert look at it and was just shocked at, how these terms are, legal. The thing is, they might not be legal, but one is you'd have to find a fighter with standing. So, like the champion clause, you can't challenge the champion clause unless the champion clause has been initiated under you. In other words, you fought out your contract and the champion clause kicks in, then you could challenge it. Well, who wants to challenge it at that point, right? So that's one, is you'd have to find a fighter with standing to challenge those provisions. with the new arbitration clause, you can't even go to court really and challenge it. You got to go to arbitration. So it's almost impossible to challenge. I mean, it's sad. One thing is we talk about fighters organizing. If the fighters had an association, they could pool the resources and the association could challenge the contract on their behalf. And then they could also find a fighter to basically be the test subject to challenge some of these provisions for everybody else. And all the other fighters could raise money to cover the guy's cost of his career. Especially you find a fighter that's a kind of a star attraction, but not making the John Jones GSP type money that, makes a couple $100,000 a fight. Well, everybody could have pooled the resources and said, we have enough to cover you in the future. You challenge this one provision. But of course, we don't have that kind of organization on the fighter side.
So we're gonna go. We're gonna actually ask some of the questions that are popping up in the chat, Matt.
So would the PFL and Bellator merger bode well for increasing competition in any meaningful way, or would it take a third party entering the fray to be able to really challenge the amount of revenue, the percentage of revenue the UFC would get from the market share?
Yeah, it doesn't really change much on the market share because we don't know what Bellator's TV deal is going to be, but after they left even when they had the DAZN deal, Bellator for 1 year did about 100 million I don't think it was 1 calendar year. I think it was a 12-month period. Did about 100 million in revenue, which is absolutely unheard of outside the UFC, right? Mm-hmm. And that's still less than 1/10 what the UFC was making that year. And that lasted until the DAZN deal was ripped up, and then they made about half that after that. So
how much of that?
Even
what
together,
was the profit on that?
That was the one profitable year they had too. So they're running about. I think I don't know exact EBITDA, but I think it was around 10 to 15% that year. So that was
on 90.
That was
their,
wow. Yes. So that was their one, and their fighter costs were about 50% that year.
Do they have a 50% revenue share still, or had?
Well, they don't have a technical revenue share, but yeah, that was the amount they were setting for that they're planning on for their business model for Bellator. But it's the 1 year. Every other year they've lost money. They've lost well over 100 million in the total lifespan of Bellator. So. It's not going to change the Bellator PFL is not going to drastically change the market share unless they get a big TV deal, which I don't see them getting a massive TV deal. But there is one thing they can do, and it seems like what they're doing, is the risk that UFC could leave ESPN. They are basically going to ESPN and say, you should really finance us, pay us to take a spot on ESPN, because if the UFC leaves, you want something you can build on. Right, you want us to grow, and for ESPN it works too. It's like, well, we have a threat to the UFC if it looks like PFL is doing better, that we can, shift our resources to them. If ESPN, you do not want to leave UFC and then leave ESPN alone for someone else to take your spot. The problem for them is they don't have, besides Francis Ngannou, who they can't even get a fight for in PFL. They don't have the 5 or 6 fighters that really move the needle. A good example through a previous lawsuit, we saw like Golden Boy, how much Canelo meant for Golden Boy. Top guys just mean so much for how much money a promotion makes. MMA too, the top guy. The thing is, UFC has all the top guys. They can use that to get money for their non-top guys, right? So they need some of the top guys to go to the PFL. They're all lock and key under the UFC. The one advantage the PFL Bellator merger does, if someone does by any chance come available, they have some opponents for them. I mean, that's always the problem with a lot of fighters. If you could get the one guy of the UFC, who do you put him against? Because there's no one else outside the UFC for him to fight. There are a handful of fighters. If you can get a top-ranked, if a Sean O'Malley could somehow get out of his contract, right? You got Patty Mix and Huraguchi, and you have a few guys over there now that you could put them against in kind of money fights. So that didn't exist before. So that's one advantage they have, but they still don't have the big name fighters to move the needle.
How important is it for PFL to get Ngannou into the cage like as quickly as possible, considering the fact that he's just getting older at this point?
Well,
yeah.
Honestly, I don't think it is important for him. I think in some ways they were doing smoke and mirrors, because I think with both him and Jake Paul, they've got contracts that are going to pay those guys a lot, but they don't have opponents that could get the money that could generate the revenue to cover the cost. I'm sure they're willing to lose some money. Be losing a lot of money putting on a Ngannou fight or a Jake Paul fight, or especially a Ngannou fight. He's going to get about 10 million guaranteed, right? And his opponent 2 million.
Do you think it is important for? Do you think it's important for them to get an opponent that actually moves the needle, or they can't rely on Ngannou's?
Don Davis has said they need an opponent that moves the needle. They need, because just the interest. What's the point of putting him against a nobody? Right? It's not going to really generate interest. You need someone. And I mean, who are they going to put? Fabricio Verdum, that's way past the prime, that no one was interested in seeing him fight. You need someone that there's some interest in seeing him fight.
Deontay Wilder.
That's a great one. That's a great example. That's someone they could do, depending on what happens in the boxing market. That would kind of sell. They could even, Deontay's going to ask for a lot of money. They probably lose money, but not a ton of money. But it will generate so much interest it'll be helpful. But for right now, it's to their benefit in some ways not to have Ngannou fight, because they get all this press and attention, and they can hype that Ngannou's part of the PFL family, and yet they don't have to pay him until they find an opponent. When they get someone, if in the fall Deontay Wilder wants to fight him and they can set that up, that's a great fight. And another great gimmick, and I don't know if they're going to do this or not, but and I'm sure, I know Ngannou's team's looking into this, is the 50th anniversary of the Rumble in the Jungle. The Jungle's coming up this fall, right? I'm sure they're thinking if he can beat Anthony Joshua, we can do a rematch in Africa. It'd be huge. If they can't get that, maybe PFL and him, because part of the PFL Africa is they can do a match versus Ngannou and Wilder in Africa, because I think the extra attention 50th anniversary Rumble in the Jungle would get with Ngannou would be massive.
Do you see? So, as a betting man, would you bet that we see Ngannou in a PFL cage versus not in over the next like 2-3 years?
I think we'll see him in the PFL cage at some point. As soon as they find an opponent that can generate. The other problem too is because he's such a big boxing star right now. They not only do they need a big opponent to draw attract, they need a big opponent to draw the revenue to pay him enough to compete with boxing. He's not going to go to PFL for his $10 million minimum when he can make 2-3 times as much that or more in boxing. I mean, his purse versus Joshua is probably going to be close to 30 million. My word I heard is that this year he is potentially going to be. He has a chance of making the Forbes list.
Wow.
So,
oh shit.
The 50th. It'll be give or take. It depends on who else is on the list, but there's a chance that he'll have the money to show that he was in top 50 highest paid athletes, which means 40 million minimum, I'm guessing. So that's he's making a lot in boxing, and so they need an opponent because he gets such a big cut of the revenue and MMA too. But you need an opponent that sells enough that he makes enough that makes it worthwhile for him to do MMA now.
All right, pivoting on that, just going back to the fighter lawsuit. Is there anything that would come of maybe managers like Ali Abdelaziz colluding with the UFC to keep fighter profits down or fighter wages down? Joe Gilpin has that question. Have you heard anything around about that?
I've heard stuff behind the scenes that there's evidence that their managers have sold out their fighters on numerous occasions. But I don't think John Fitch addressed this in somewhere, I can't remember where, but he addressed this that it's because the lawsuits against the UFC and not the fighters, it's unlikely that kind of evidence will be made public.
Is there any way would a lawsuit be possible against those managers, or what legal recourse would there be to penalize these managers?
It's possible, I guess. I mean, I guess the statute of limitations is probably out for a lot of the accusations against them. But I'm sure if they wanted to, maybe they could take it to an athletic commission, show they're not doing their fiduciary responsibility. Or if a fighter has a complaint against the manager and wants to break a contract, he probably could subpoena just that evidence from this case and say, I want to use it for my suit or to break my contract with this manager. But again, most fighters are not interested in doing that, so I don't know if we'll ask for that information. But I mean, the word is behind the scenes and hints from Nate Quarry and Kung Lee and John Fitch in interviews is that there's stuff that managers have said that that basically we will give you UFC. You know, I will go do what you want UFC over the interest of my fighter.
I guess pivoting back to other organizations, ONE FC is obviously makes a lot of noise, but considering everything we do see about going on with Shatria and also the funding and stuff like that, one, first, you know, how much impact have they had on the general MMA market? And two, how long do you anticipate them being able to function at this point, considering that one's finances just don't seem to add up at all?
Well, they had an impact for a brief moment. There was a couple of years there where, for a lot of fighters, just anybody that was top, you know, ranked fighter, they would make more, except for the champions and the very top guys, the pay-per-view attractions, would make more outside the UFC, and everybody knew that. Although, and this is, I'm actually going to be on the manager side on this brief argument here, is that a lot of people blame the managers, and they are often I call them brokers. Although I've done that for years, and they're to blame for a lot of it. But there are a lot of managers that try to talk their fighters into going for the better deal for their, you know, like, I'm doing your fiduciary responsibility. I think we should leave the UFC and go somewhere else. You'll make a lot more money and it'll preserve your career. And they would get shot down by their fighters. So it's like the managers, you know, it's, I don't know how much blame they can take when sometimes their fighters won't follow their suggestions where they could make a lot more money. But there was a moment where ONE and Bellator and all of them were paying much more for guys like Agard Masasi than the UFC was paying. ONE, though, has stopped. I mean, they barely run MMA anymore, right? When's the last big signing they've had in mixed martial arts you've heard about? On very few MMA events. And so I think seems obvious to me, based on their finances that we've seen, that they've burned through all the capital they've raised. They're now moving on to cheaper sports like Muay Thai, right? 4-ounce glove Muay Thai. That's their marketing. They're trying to preserve their income that way, running fewer MMA events. And so they're not much of an MMA promotion anymore. Now the threat that they might go out of business, the one good thing for them is they don't have debt. They didn't take this as loans, right? And so have a huge amount of interest they have to pay back. This was capital raised, so they can burn through it and still exist, but they have to exist on a much more frugal basis. They have to be much smaller promotion than they've been in the past. So at the end of the year, next year, I don't see there's a chance ONE's out of business. I think the most likely thing is that they're still in business. They're just running shows, smaller shows. They have, you know, less, and they have less of an imprint than they've already had on the MMA landscape.
And so do you think they will fully transition to being sort of a kickboxing, 4-ounce
They also
Muay
do
Thai?
their grappling events too, right? They've got like Daniel Kelly and a couple other people that they've got their Mikey Musumeci, or whatever.
Yeah, so do you think it would be more of an adjacent to MMA promotion than an actual MMA promotion?
I don't see that. I mean, I guess what's the pitch they can tell these investors how they're going to get their money back? Right? The pitch is that they eventually are going to blow up somewhere. And that's the one thing I think will keep them staying in MMA or whatever, because there's just not, I mean, maybe they can pitch that we'll be the next K1 and we'll make a fortune, but they don't seem to be moving in that direction either. I think they scale down and keep floating around, but they have to retain something. They have to retain something where they can tell the other investors that eventually we can blow this up and make your money back. And so they could be a small promotion. I guess the selling at that point, they're probably looking to sell the assets. But again, there's no real assets in MMA that are worth buying.
Do you think a streaming service might come in and, I guess, buy them out? Or like Amazon, I know they work for Amazon Prime. Is there any way, do you think, a streaming service would purchase ONE?
I don't see
his content?
No, I don't see that I'd purchase. I mean, Amazon, and plus the Amazon deal, my understanding was a 5-year deal, which is, I mean, that was a bad sign for me, because you signed a 5-year deal for not a lot of money, anywhere from $2.5 to $5 million per year, I think was the deal, what I heard. So now your hope is signing a cheap deal makes sense in the short term, because your idea is, I'm going to be on Amazon, we're going to do these we're going to show how great the events are, and then we can go back and ask for a lot more money. But now you're locked into this low price on the biggest broadcast market in the world, America, for years to come. So I don't see anybody. I just don't see I feel bad saying this. I just don't see the value of anybody purchasing a streaming service buying them.
So, not to go all doom and gloom, but it kind of just sounds like at this point the UFC's kind of won, like completely.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a UFC market. It's the UFC. If your idea of mixed martial arts is that the idea of it's a promotion is a self-contained entity, they put on fights, they control their titles, all that. That's how the business model works. Then yeah, there's no competition for the UFC. They've locked up all the top fighters. The only way you can become a top fighter is to sign with the UFC. And then after you become a top fighter, you're locked into a contract with the UFC, so you can't go anywhere else. So yeah, on that model, the UFC wins, which is why when you talk to like Rob Macy and John Fitch and those guys and Randy Couture, the guys that are in the lawsuit and trying to push it out, their version is what they're trying to do is they're trying to break the model that we don't work on the mixed martial arts pro wrestling model. Because I mean that mixed martial, and I don't mean that like in a derogatory way. I mean mixed martial arts when it was founded, it's if you go back in the history of boxing and wrestling, pro wrestling, created a separate entities to control the titles in boxing, and then became legalized the sanctioning organization. So the titles were separate. The promoter, where boxing or MMA, they did the reverse. They said we are just going to make our AWA is going to have its own title. The WWF back in the back is just going to have its own. We're going to own the title ourselves. And so MMA has followed that from wrestling, taking that from wrestling, where the promoter owns the title, gives them complete control. And now we've seen what happened in wrestling with WWE. UFC controls the market, and so what their plan is, the way they think you fix the market is you take away control of the title and rank from the promoters. That way, it's open air for the UFC can be the dominant entity, but eventually other promoters, other people, even the fighters themselves can step in and promote their own title fights or top fights, number one mandatory challengers, stuff like that.
I mean, just jumping off of that, based on what you know, is and this is from Operator, but she was basically saying if she missed this, are there any historical precedents for monopsony breakups by federal or market forces that seem applicable to the UFC's specific set of circumstances?
I mean, there's a direct case. You can go back. There's a case called the International Boxing Club of New York in the 50s. It was the mafia ran it, but it was very similar to the UFC case in the fact that what they did is the International Boxing Club of New York said, we have all the champions that signed us under contract. And then we got the number one contenders signed under contract, exclusive contracts that could run up to 5 years. And the only way boxer could ever fight for the title, they had to sign a long-term exclusive contract with the International Boxing Club of New York. So it created a monopoly because the titles is what, the champions is what everybody pays attention to. And the only way becoming a champion makes you more valuable, even in MMA, every major star's popularity is blown up after he fought for the title and won it. I mean, Brock Lesnar was a star, became a massive star after he won the title. Conor McGregor was no one, but became a massive star after he won the title. So what they do is the International Boxing Club said you have to sign with us to become to even fight for the belt. And then you're signed with us long term if you win the belt. So it was basically a Venus flytrap. Everybody had to come into the International Boxing Club if they wanted to ever become a superstar, and it created a monopoly. And they had a lawsuit against it, the United States, U.S. versus International Boxing Club of New York. And the end result of that, which was cited in the class cert by the judge, was that the judge ordered that the way to break up the monopoly is that for the next 5 years, I believe it was, no contracts with the International Boxing Club of New York could be exclusive. In other words, you'd be signed to the International Boxing Club, but if you wanted to and anybody else offered you a contract, you could go fight for them at the same time. Go back and forth. Wherever you could honor your contract with the International Boxing Club or go off and fight for another promoter. It basically destroyed the International Boxing Club of New York having a monopoly because now, other promoters could step in and bid for all the top fights, and there's nothing restraining those fighters from choosing the best deal.
Can something like that happen with the UFC? And if yes, what would it take, essentially?
Well, I think that's what the plaintiffs are looking for. I mean, they've said they want an injunctive relief. The judge cited the International Boxing Club of New York, which makes me think it's on his mind. He cited in the class cert. He brought up briefly. The plaintiffs have suggested possible solutions for injunctive relief in the future. One would be that contracts could be no more than a year or two max. and that covers with all extensions. If you did a year contract or you did with the International Boxing Club of New York and it went on long enough, that would drastically change the industry because just think of this. Okay, we have John Jones right now, right? And Ngannou. If John Jones was now declared non-exclusive contract, he could go and talk to Ngannou and say, what do you think Saudi Arabia would pay for our fight? And what do we think Saudi Arabia would pay for that fight? I would guess they would pay a lot, right? I've talked to people in the industry. They think that fight would sell on pay-per-view even without the UFC involvement. So you could then go. Now, the UFC could come back and say, we are going to match the $100 million you two are going to make. But, okay, that's fine. The UFC still has the best fight. But guess what? The wage share just skyrocketed, didn't it?
How many of those could the UFC even match?
Well, they could match almost as many as they want. They would just have to give up all the revenue. Their profit margins would shrink drastically. So that's the question. Would the UFC be willing to match them all, knowing that they're not going to make profit? I mean, their whole point is they want to keep as much profit as possible. So the other outcome is that the UFC pays little, and then they keep as much money as they can from their streaming service deals, but then fan base moves on somewhere else. So that's what the plaintiffs would like to see, is that fighters have the ability to negotiate the UFC, but also negotiate with anybody else at the same time, because then the UFC either has an option. They have the money, they can match anybody, but are they going to match on some of these deals? And sometimes the fighter might decide that it's more profitable to go put on a fight by myself.
So also with that being said, given the UFC's relationship with the Trump administration, does a Trump victory change any way the lawsuit might be affected?
There's some. I mean, the previous guy, Malkin, I can't remember his full name. He was a lobbyist actually for Zuffa that worked in the antitrust division for Trump. I mean, he was openly called corrupt, and they're kind of right. He would write amicus briefs on behalf of everybody that were just so one-sided, it was absurd. So Trump coming in, it's very possible that a Trump administration fully lends its support to the defendants in any appeal. Let's say they lose this and it goes to appeal. Well, they're probably going to write amicus briefs in support of them for the appeals court for the Supreme Court, which could signal, we have several Trump-appointed Supreme Court justices, so that could signal which way they're supposed to go on that. The Ali Act is dead in the water right now it's the Mark Wayne Mullen, the guy that supported it, is kind of he hasn't submitted again. And the theory I heard that makes sense is that because he's kind of waiting to see what happens with Trump. Because Trump is friends with Dana White, and the UFC has kind of embraced the Republican Party, he doesn't want to go after them and make himself a target. So if Trump comes back, that's dead. That's even more dead in the water than it is right now. And then, again, like we said before, you have him appointing judges, and the Department of Justice and the FTC are submitting rules, guidelines that are going to be much more supportive or much more against the plaintiffs.
And then how do you think or any information on how the Biden administration would react to a potential appeal as well? They haven't written anything, they haven't said anything, but it's obvious that the Lena Khan FTC, that they're very supportive of this kind of a lawsuit. They're very much on that side. In fact, I'm not surprised, but I would not doubt that if they were asked, they would submit an amicus brief on behalf of the plaintiffs.
I guess for the future, for the future, in the next 5, 10, 15, whatever, how many years you want to go into the future with it, what if you had to, I guess, give fans who really do give a shit about this stuff some hope, what would you really tell them, like to actually, that there is some hope that we'll see some improvements in the near future, or in the distant future at least?
Start following bare knuckle. No, I'm just kidding. I guess.
Oh man, somehow you've made it worse. Oh my God.
I know. Actually, I don't watch bare knuckle at all, so I can't. But no, my one thing I'm hopeful for is I do think it's not a given. it's still up in the air, but I favor the plaintiffs winning some sort of judgment damages on the Lee case this April. And then the question is, how long does the appeal process take? And if there's a settlement, does they bring the price down? But I think that for fighters that fought in the UFC from 2010 to 2017, most of them, I'm guessing if they win, and I favor, I'll give it like a 60% chance to the plaintiffs, 2 to 1, I'll say. I favor them, but still up in the air. It's not a given. But I favor the plaintiffs. They get some damages. So fighters that fought in the UFC for a period will get damages and we get some extra money they should have probably got back then. That's a positive. That's something positive. For the marketplace, I mean, it's hard. The two good things I thought happened recently is Nate Diaz and Francis Ngannou left the UFC and found a lot more money. Now they did it in boxing. But there's nothing that says that they couldn't have done this in MMA. In fact, Nate Diaz, this is an honest offer. PFL has a $10 to $15 million deal offer for him to fight Jake Paul in MMA. That's a legitimate offer. So there's money to be made outside the UFC. So there is a positive. If Ngannou can get an opponent and fight in MMA and it can do it well, could be an example to fighters that there is a sizable amount of money that can be made outside the UFC if you're the right fighter. And that could be eye-opening to some. But the problem is now since the contracts have changed, all the fighters that had an opportunity to take advantage of that sunset of, the last couple of years, that's gone. And so I don't know what fighters, it might be a lesson, a message received too late for anybody to take advantage of it. Which is sad. I guess I made it depressing again at the end instead of positive.
I'm gonna make
It's okay. It's MMA.
I'm about to make it more depressing.
Oh, good.
If this lawsuit fails, is there any recourse for any fighter being able to challenge the UFC's unfair wage scale, or is it?
Well, I mean, they'd have to challenge the contracts, but there's an opportunity. Then it gets harder because then you hope that there's a few Republicans that support it, but mostly Democrats support a bill. You'd have to wait till they have Congress again that they support a bill that would rescind the arbitration right. That you can't force arbitration and class action waivers on workers. You'd have to have that pass, and then you'd have to hope that some fighters challenge their contracts. But yeah, I don't see it making a massive structural change. I guess there is some. Let's say PFL, and I don't have faith really in PFL because they seem smarter than one, but the same. It seems like an obvious attempt to impress the financialization of the industry to try to get investors and set up go public or something eventually. But if PFL can come in and put on a successful Francis Ngannou pay-per-view and a successful, let's say, Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, and they have a track record of a couple pay-per-views, it could open up the door to a few fighters thinking that they can go, we have somewhere to go that could force the UFC to pay more because it'd be a bidding process between the two. But again, the UFC has everybody on lockdown. I mean, if they fail at the lawsuit, if they lose to the jury, then basically the industry just remains unchanged. The industry we've had for the last 10 years continues. It's just more obvious that it's a one-sided industry.
So we have one more clarifying question that was asked in the chat, and then I'm going to pass this off to Ryan Saram if they have any questions that they wanted to ask you as well. He was asking if it's true the possibility of injunctive relief was pushed back to the Johnson case, or is it still on the table for the Lee case?
It was pushed back to Johnson. There's no injunctive relief going to be before there was some injunctive relief going to be discussed after the Lee case, but the plaintiffs filed to put it only in the Johnson because it seems obvious from their filing that they're worried that if we start looking at injunctive relief, that means that they would have to open up for discovery, which means we could delay the trial for several more years, and they've already delayed this long. So their thinking is let's go for damages, and then we'll go into Johnson is when the injunctive relief would be decided.
All right, Ryan, Saram, feel free to join in, and I'm sure you guys might have some questions or follow-ups as well. Also, John, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate having you on. This interview's been Amazing. So thank you.
Thank you for I love accolades, so keep firing my way.
The thing I was most curious about was the stuff about manager collusion. We already went over that a bit. But just like to wrap everything up, I'd say like what stage of the lawsuit are we at like right now, and what do we expect to see going forward? As somebody who has no idea about the timetable that these things usually take.
Oh, well, to give a brief rundown of the lawsuit, it was filed back in December 16, 2014. It's been going on. The Kung Lee Fitch, Corey, Javier Vasquez, Brandon Vera, and Kyle Kingsbury. They're the named plaintiffs. Their lawsuit started back in 2014. And it's taken much longer than it should, partly because of the COVID, partly because there's an appeal. They brought up another ruling in a different case that slowed everything down. The steps are you have the filing, then you have discovery that takes a while, and then you're waiting for what's called class certification, which the judge finally granted in August. Ever since he granted that, this case has been going super fast. We've got past the appeal process. We have what's called a motion of summary judgment, which the judge has already hinted he's not going to grant to UFC, which means basically the UFC is saying, hey, there's no merit to this case, just throw it out. It looks like he's going to skip that. And so we have a trial for this case starting in April 8th, I think it is, and it's set to run 5 weeks. So in May, we will have an official verdict in this case. That doesn't mean the case is 100% done, but the majority will be much further along we've ever had. We'll have an actual verdict, and no matter what happens to the verdict, there'll be an appeal process after that. Now, the appeal process could drag several years, but there's also a chance a year later, a year after, if there's no settlement, a year after the verdict, we could have final clarification on this case completely, all done. So there's a good chance that we are on not just a trial to find a verdict, but even the appeal process, that this could all be settled by 2025.
Hey, John.
Hello.
I know this might be a little bit outside of the direct purview of the lawsuit, but I guess my question is more about the impact of if the UFC loses the case and we get the absolute best case, a kind of Ollie Act type situation where we do get in a long term several competing promotions. The big concern I've seen from most people in that situation is how the matchmaking would go, right? Like in boxing, you see a lot of situations where these big stars end up with a lot of fights that aren't quite up to that level, and it takes forever for them to fight other guys. Now, my response to that has generally been that having certain pound-for-pound tier guys having showcases is probably superior to your pound-for-pound tier guys just not even getting in the sport because the pay's been so depressed by a monopoly. But do you think that there's any sort of workaround for that in MMA to like both have your cake and eat it too, as it were, to avoid boxing's matchmaking pitfalls?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, boxing's not perfect. Boxing has got a lot of problems. I mean, the one thing boxing has over MMA, though, is competition that pays more. I mean, people will always point out that the undercard of the UFC makes more than the undercard of a boxing pay-per-view, but they ignore is the UFC's only 40 events per year. In boxing, if you add up all the boxing on on ESPN, DAZN, ESPN, DAZN, and Showtime under PBC, Golden Boy, Matchroom, and Top Rank, there was like 160 events last year. There's a tremendous amount of events, so maybe the undercard doesn't get as much, but there's tons of main event guys making more than MMA guys make. So the competition drives up wages. There's a couple solutions. I mean, one problem you wouldn't have is a lot of the UFC matchmaking wouldn't matter because the undercard fighters, the vast majority of fighters are just happy to be in the UFC because the UFC pays more than everybody else, right? So they're still going to show up. They're still going to take the fight because they don't want to. The 27th middleweight is not going to hold out. It's the top guys they have a problem with. And the top guys who probably deserve much more money than they've been getting. It's not just the top. I don't mean just the top guys, like the top guys and the rank guys, the guys that really drive people to view and have built them a place in the sport where they show them they're the best. The solution for the UFC would be simple. I mean, the UFC, it makes so much money. The simple is just offer a lot of money to get guys to fight. We see with Saudi Arabia right now, never mind the human rights violations, but we see with Saudi Arabia right now that you throw these guys money and they show up to fight. The heavyweights are lining up for, it looks like every 3-4 months they're showing up to fight in Saudi Arabia. So that's one. The other solution I have, and my thinking is, and I have an article. This is how to fix boxing, but this applies to the UFC too. Is in boxing, there's no rule that says that the fighters, the boxers, can't form an association and make their own sanctioning organization, right? And if you had their own sanctioning organization, then you wouldn't have to pay fees to the sanctioning organization. They could go into like a pension fund instead. And you wouldn't have this corruption where promoters under the table are trying to, work with sanctioning organizations and pay them off to get their guys ranked. You could have just a strict guidelines. Like your whole goal as a fighter is you've got to fight a certain number of times and get ranked, and then you can get a title fight. And that would probably make it much more, at the very top at least, meritocratic. So that's a possible solution. But overall, the big fix for the UFC would be that that they just have so much money they could throw them at people if they needed them to show up and fight.
That makes sense. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
I think that's all I've got for the questions. Ryan and Sarama, anything else you guys got?
That's everything from me as well.
All right, so Matt's in the bathroom, so I'm going to assume he has no questions left either. But you're welcome to, John, if you got to go, I totally understand. But you're also welcome to stick around for the non-serious part of this, which is just going to be mostly us just shooting the shit and having fun. So
okay, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to log up to listen on YouTube because I got a cat that's dying for some attention here.
I got you, man. Thank you so much for joining. We really do appreciate it. It was a great interview as well. It was really informative. So thank you. That
was great questions. It was enjoyable. It was a much smarter questions than most of the ones I get. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate you and all the work that you've been doing in covering this as well. It's been really, really needed considering the way that the MMA media sphere has been going recently. So thank you for all you do.
For sure.
And thank you for coming on again. Have a great night. Hope you enjoy the rest of the shit show that's about to go on. So.
Oh, don't worry. I'll let you know if it's a shit show.
Oh,
Ben.
please do.
I'll let you know.
Have a great night, John.
Okay. Thanks a lot, John.
Well, now that the adult in the room has left the room, so as we were discussing, Zulazinho as in as far away from his prime as we can get, versus Fedor as far away from his prime as he can get. Who do we got?
Wouldn't it just be the same fight?
It's possible, but Fedor may also slip
Zulu
on
doesn't.
the proverbial banana peel and then die.
This is true. I mean, he did lose to Fabio Maldonado.
He did.
How did that?
He did lose to Fabio. I forgot about
Bro
that.
got boxed up by Ryan Bader. You don't come back from that.
Twice.
Bader was so shot in that fight that Bader wasn't even panic shooting from 10 feet away.
First of all, this is not a shit on Ryan Bader show, okay? All right? I want to make that very clear, okay?
I'm complimenting him. He boxed up Fedor.
He was the Bellator 2-division champ, the first and only champion to do that, holding 2 belts simultaneously. Ryan Bader is one of the greatest light heavyweights we have ever seen step in the Bellator circle, and the squared circle, or whatever they call it. And you will not disrespect that man in my home, okay?
Greatest light heavyweight in Bellator is like being the governor of Alaska.
Still a fucking governor. So we got that going on. But Ryan, I feel like it's time that maybe we revisit something really, really important. Something that, Saram, I don't know if you were around for that, but you should be, because I feel like you'd provide valuable insight into this particular discussion. Ryan and I, and Matt, whenever Matt decides to come back from the bathroom, we had this request from a patron, and the request was to put a bunch of fictional characters into what do you call it? Winner takes all.
Like a battle royale thing?
Yeah, battle royale. A deadly battle royale. People like 5 Macaulay Culkins, John McClane, people like that, essentially. So I feel like we can do a modern version, a 2024 version, one might say. But I think the best way to do it is to take potentially take the 2024 versions of those characters. So like a 40-year-old Macaulay Culkin, but 5 of them. What do you think?
Do you remember who all the characters were?
Not
I remember
even a fucking chance.
having only seen like 3 of those movies.
James Bond, but like the Daniel Craig version. Jason Bourne, I think. 5 Macaulay Culkins. Arnold Schwarzenegger from Commando.
Who the fuck is Jason Bourne?
Uh,
You're the guy to the backflips in
Is that like
WWE.
some
the guy who did the
boomer movie or
backflips.
like a Gen X thing?
No. It's like James Bond, but like gritty.
Uh,
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I didn't
James
watch
Bond,
most of
but
those
all the,
movies.
all
I can.
the
Rambo,
fight
of
scenes
course,
are in
Rambo.
shaky cam.
Oh, Rambo. Yeah,
Alright.
Rambo would probably be a crazy addition.
Rambo was in the original thing. I think the winner was actually.
Was it Macaulay Culkins?
It wasn't Macaulay Culkin. It wasn't the Macaulay
The numbers
Culkins.
game.
I vote
right?
for the Macaulay
It
Culkins.
wasn't the Macaulay
Yeah.
Culkins, but I think you did argue for them. I think you.
I think
That was the
you're
only
getting an
movie I'd
advantage just
seen.
with the plural Macaulay Culkins.
It's a plurality of Macaulay Culkins.
Like,
If
you're
if
not.
you give
Yeah,
them enough prep
that
time, I don't think anyone else has a chance.
That is. Can Macaulay Culkin with prep time basically be Batman?
Yes, as long as like the battleground is confined to his house specifically, it can't go anywhere else. Then he's fucked.
He did pretty good in New York.
Was that a movie?
I don't recognize the
Yo,
sequels.
Macaulay, do you not watch Home Alone 2? Lost in New York?
I didn't know there were sequels.
There are multiple. First of all, there's
Yeah,
multiple sequels.
1 and 2 are fine. One and
One
two
and
are
two-
I
fine.
feel like they
I've
lost
never
the
got to
integrity of
three.
the series when it
I
like
do remember
stopped being in his
watching
house, though.
Dude, I remember watching number 3 as a kid, and it was, oh, what a good movie. But as an adult, I'm watching that in hindsight, and I'm like, I don't think it was a good movie.
Why do
Yeah,
his
and as a
parents
kid,
keep
it's
leaving him
just-
home alone?
They know he can take care of himself. You know, clean up the neighborhood. He's Batman. No, I think Macaulay Culkin with enough prep time is just that guy in The Equalizer. So actually, he should be in those.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that would function. I think you just broke my brain. Okay. Holy fuck, Matt Damon is Jet Li now? What? Dan, what? Okay, that's... Wait, was Jet Li one of the... I don't think Jet Li was in it. I think we need to have Jet Li in. What if we just did all the martial arts masters? Jackie
Steven
Chan.
Seagal in it?
Yes. Steven Seagal, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Bruce Lee, I guess.
Okay,
Who else?
as someone who watched the Indian film, I have to go with one of those really old guys who puts on a toupee and beats up big crowds in the movies.
Throw him in.
Wasn't Tyron Woodley in some Indian film getting his ass?
Yeah, he was in Dangle. It was like a wrestling film about women going into wrestling. I think something like that.
Incredible.
I would say the only movie that I know of with Tyron Woodley is the one where he got a raccoon to bite his penis.
Yeah, unfortunately, I saw a Tyron Woodley movie very recently, and it wasn't one that I really want to see again.
Which one?
What is this?
It was all over
I'm
Twitter.
informed about this.
It was very short and extremely vulgar.
Was it the raccoon penis one?
Nah, it wasn't. There was apparently a
I don't
Tyron
know.
Woodley sex tape got leaked.
There's a
All right.
Tyron Woodley sex tape?
Oh,
We should do a live
apparently.
is that
video.
real? Please
Yeah.
tell me that's a real thing. I didn't Google
John
it.
Nash gone?
Yeah, John Nash.
I didn't look it up, but everyone was talking about it. I'm gonna accept it's real for comedic purposes.
You know, Tyron
Like
Woodley-
anything bad that could happen to Tyron Woodley is gonna happen. So if this isn't real, a real one's coming out.
Ryan watched it. Ryan, tell Matt about Tyron Woodley's sex
I'm
tape.
good. No, I'm good.
Wow,
I didn't know this was a thing, but we should do a live reaction video.
If there's one thing that makes Matt uncomfortable, it's discussing sex.
All right, I'm taking over the stream. You guys want to talk about jiu-jitsu?
No, we were talking about Tyron Woodley
God damn
sex
it.
tape or something.
Yeah, he's really the opposite of jiu-jitsu if you think about it.
Oh, because it's not gay?
I don't know if it was gay. I didn't watch it. If it was good for him, I guess. But
Oh, yeah? Saram, we were talking about this earlier, but What is the worst, I guess, anti-prime versus anti-prime matchup you can make between all-time greats?
I mean, my definition of all-time great is probably pretty poor. It's probably going to involve T.J. Dillashaw in round 2 of the Sterling fight.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
See, who can he fight that's close to his? I mean, Dominic Cruz isn't super out of his prime. Who else? Somewhere close. Austin Stout, who fought Davey Grant.
Well-known competitor. Let's drop down the elitism here.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Who's the shottest featherweight there's ever been?
Barao.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yep.
Oh, God.
Barao versus Dillashaw.
Is it the Barao that fought Evan Dunham, or
Barao fought Evan Dunham?
What the fuck?
Wait, did he?
No, Evan Dunham's like a weight class higher,
No,
2 weight
sorry.
classes higher.
Who was the featherweight he fought?
I think he fought Douglas Silva de Andrade. I think he was a featherweight for a little bit. He fought Andre Ewell, and he lost that fight.
Wikipedia'd this, and he lost this year in October or last year.
What?
To Walter Zamora.
Oh,
Who's signing him?
Mexican promotions.
Era Championship Fight Night.
Okay, well I know who to short.
Who is the best shot fighter of all time? And is it Jim Miller?
Got to be Aldo, right?
All right, I didn't have a barber. I dyed this in the gym. Kobe. Just want to let you know.
It's Arlovsky. Arlovsky has been shot
UFC?
for fucking. Yes, he's still getting like 400K a
He's
fight.
fighting someone soon, I think.
Oh my god.
And he's been shot for fucking 20 years at this point. He's just raking
Bro, isn't he fighting
millions,
like
doing
that
absolutely
Waldo
nothing.
guy?
What's his record since
I
coming
have
back to the
no
UFC?
idea.
Like 13-13?
That sounds perfect.
I'm pretty sure that's also Michael Johnson's record or something close to that. It's like
No,
13
I
and
think
15.
Michael Johnson has losses. Jeremy Stevens, great shout. Didn't Jeremy Stevens just win a bare knuckle FC bout?
Yeah, he beat Jimmy Rivera, but also Rivera, what I heard, I didn't watch it, was that Rivera was beating his ass and then got cut. So I guess that's fair in bare knuckle. But
I mean, that goes for Jimmy Rivera fights, right? He's winning, but doesn't.
well, that only happened in the Jan fight where he was winning and then he kept winning and then he got robbed, in my opinion. Haven't watched it since it was live. But
How do you get robbed in a fight where you dropped like 14 times?
ask Jimmy Rivera.
The fight site.
Robbed blind.
Rafael Sunsao is the greatest fighter to never win a title. Except for all the other great fighters that didn't win a title.
Joe B.
Except for all
I would
the other
entertain
great
best,
fighters.
probably not greatest. Poirier probably cleans up greatest, unfortunately.
Oof. How's that
Still, he has
possible?
to fight a wrestler.
But technically, Poirier won a
Well, that's
title.
why he's not best. He's
Wait,
greatest.
No, technically, Poirier won the title. He
Yeah.
got the interim belt,
Interim
right?
title.
Interim is fake. Interim's so fake.
I get it.
No,
but I feel like
he gets it for beating Max.
Yeah, he beat Max. You gotta move over slightly.
Where are we touching? We're doing the jiu-jitsu
Yeah, but then see, I have to give Islam credit
Sure,
for beating
coming to my
Volk, and I don't want to do that. So
Arlovsky was playing Russian roulette back during the Affliction days. Al, I'm gonna ask you to be like, when you say Russian roulette, do you mean actually? All right. That would explain a lot about Andre Arlovsky's chin.
All right, you have to pick 6 fighters to play Russian roulette. Who are you putting?
Colby 6
Perhaps
times.
6 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's really. It's a really
We basically
easy
said the
answer.
same fighter, but in a different division.
Yeah, they're just liked by different kinds of Georgians.
You putting Koscheck in there?
Koscheck wasn't that bad. He was just a dick. Like, what did he do?
Paul Daly did nothing wrong.
I have the same hair.
I'm not gonna argue with
Do
you.
you
on that
remember
one, 'cause
Dan
Koscheck was a
Mergliotta just
massive
fucking
dick, but-
hossing Daly around there?
What?
That was so cool when Daly punched him and Dan Mergliotta just treated him like a child. Just like
That
put him in
was-
a head and arm choke and just like, get the fuck out of here.
That,
That rules.
Dan Mergliotta, unironically, just throwing fighters around like children whenever he gets mad is very funny.
Was he the one who just shoved that guy when he was in midair?
No, that's Jake.
Gono.
Was it? No, I don't think it was. I think that was Dan. Dan can't move anymore.
I
I
just
just
remember-
attack, so.
It was. I think it was either Dan or Big John.
It was one of the big guys, yeah.
Was Paul Daly's best move in MMA for doing that shove? Because he probably made more money outside the UFC.
I don't think he shoved him. He punched him.
It was a punch, yeah.
Was that the best move he's ever made?
Yes, but that's because it was Koscheck. If it was anyone else,
I think he would have
it'd be
eventually
bad.
I think he would have eventually gotten a title shot, and that would have been, if he was able to get a UFC title shot and then get out of the UFC, I think that would have been fine. Better.
I don't think it was
But-
that.
I think he would have gotten. They wanted him to get a top
Did
shot.
Daly make a lot of money
in the
outside the
division with
UFC?
Fitch, Kasha.
I know he
No,
beat
no,
some
Fitch
guys. I
wasn't
think he
touching
beat
him. They weren't giving him to
Larkin.
Fitch after
Larkin was a
Kasha.
solid win.
What? What about Larkin?
Oh, that Daly beat him. Also, Daly beat Campman, which I actually didn't know for a really long time. Like, that was just one of those fights that was lost.
Oh no, he beat
Like, in my
he
head.
fucking murdered
Oh.
Cameron.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Cracked out Melvin Gillard in our worst fighters.
Middleweight Melvin Gillard. Yeah,
Why did you
middleweight
just think of
old
the
Melvin
worst?
Gillard, the one who fought Israel.
Yeah.
Didn't he fight Salikov too? Just randomly putting old, fat, shot Melvin Gillard against like amazing strikers who are twice as big as him.
And Israel Adesanya, too.
Is Melvin Gillard still fighting?
Probably.
Probably.
Why
Have
wouldn't
you
he be?
done
Like,
Melvin
if
Gillard
not
versus Crazy
officially, I'm
Horse
sure he
yet?
is somewhere.
I don't know if Crazy Horse is legally allowed to fight anymore.
I don't think Melvin Gillard should be.
I don't know if Crazy Horse is legally allowed to leave the premise of wherever he is anymore.
Melvin Gillard's last fight was in 2019, thank God, and it was a decision loss.
Check bare knuckle.
Oh shoot, you're right. Oh no, he fought in bare knuckle. I didn't need to be reminded of
Go
that.
back. Go back. No.
December.
Serious health concern.
Yeah, they canceled his last fight because of a serious health concern with respect to Melvin Gillard, so he hasn't
bare knuckle.
in bare knuckle.
Jesus.
Only his last
I
one?
was
Probably
wrong.
should have done that a long time
he
ago.
fought Joe Riggs.
Yeah,
and
bro's
lost
got...
he fought Joe Riggs in 2021 and lost by first minute.
You and Herb Dean also fought Joe Riggs.
That's weird.
Joe Riggs. I haven't heard that name in years.
Yo, listen to this. He fought Chidi Njokuani, Muslim Salikov, and Israel Adesanya in a row.
And then Takanori Gomi.
Oh my God.
All in the span of 7 months.
Bro, he lost the 2018 Takanori Gomi.
That is true.
Oh, my God.
Is he the most shot fighter to ever be shot? Or is it still Woodley?
That was Takanori Gomi's last fight.
I mean, guys have had worse falls just because even peak Melvin Gillard wasn't amazing, right? But, like, his bottom is probably the worst of anyone.
Barao losing to that random dude in the random
Gillard's
Mexican
got a pretty
promotion.
decent ass. Don't say his bottom is bad.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that about Woodley.
Oh,
his nader is...
Yo, shot Hector Lombard versus shot Tyron Woodley.
3 things happened in that fight, and all of them in the first
And
round.
all of them are from Lombard.
Yeah.
That's fucking amazing.
That's a great shot fight.
Remember when people thought Hector Lombard was going to be something special of some sort? And
he was in Bellator.
He was certainly in Bellator.
Didn't last long. He came over and immediately lost to like Tim Boach, was it?
That was phenomenal.
I can't
one of my
be
favorite fights of all time.
And it was such a shit
Tim
fight
Boach.
too.
Dude, once you get Neil Magny
I
like
actually
that,
liked
like
Tim
Magny
Boach. He was
actually
pretty
beats
cool.
the fucking shit out of you.
Not to go after Woodley again. I mean, also too. Ben
Do it,
Askren
yeah.
post hip surgery or Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington?
I mean,
Gotta be
Askren
Woodley,
would at least
right?
throw punches and try to do takedowns. What is Woodley gonna do? He's gonna sit there with his back against the fence, defend every single takedown that comes his way, and that's everything he's gonna do the whole fight.
Is that the worst fight you can make?
Yeah.
It might be the worst fight.
Well, outside of like women's MMA.
All right.
No, I think that might even be the worst fight you can make.
Nah, I think probably Askren tries enough things that he either dies or wins a fight where stuff happens. It'd be like a Marab fight.
Which would you rather watch? Jelton Almeida fight versus Derek Lewis on loop, or Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza on loop? Don't think too hard about this. It will give you a stroke.
I guess it's going to be Jelton.
Almeida does like some jujitsu, doesn't he?
I think he tried some jiu-jitsu and then realized that Derek Lewis's neck was too thick for an arm triangle.
Yeah, Jelton fights like he doesn't know that hitting people on top is allowed.
It shouldn't be. I agree.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu.
Or at least in those fights.
Heavyweight. Do you see the thing in KSW where Krzysztof Glowacki knocked some dude out from
Oh
bottom
yeah, the
mount?
knockout from bottom, yeah.
What?
Just didn't want that to happen to him.
Is that real?
And you know, all the ground and pound
Knocked him out
Jelton
from
throws.
bottom out.
That's amazing and terrible.
And then he
All
got suspended from
the
boxing.
ground and pound Jelton throws from top mount is like this Donkey Kong hammer fist thing. Like I think he throws double hammer fist. It's disgusting. So
God, I love double hammer fist.
The people in my head that I remember doing the double hammer fists, Josh Saman, right? Salmon or Saman. I don't remember what it was. He had 2 M's, so I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. But Josh, he did the double hammer fist, right?
Is the double hammer fist still better than Brock's rabbit punches on Randy Couture?
Oh, those were the best. Oh my God! Just watching him fist Randy's face.
Wasn't-
Jesus Christ.
Didn't that guy
what he
who
was doing. He was just fisting it.
Didn't that guy who gave Team Chandler his first loss on Tough get double hammer fisted? I remember a picture being really funny about that.
You watch Tough?
No.
No, someone sent me a picture. It was just hilarious.
Saurabh, wait. Your image as the person who does not give a fuck about MMA is out the window. You watch Tough. It's over for you.
Nah,
It's over for you.
You watched
it's
Tough in
binge over,
2023.
but let's see, who was it? I don't even remember who it was. It was some guy who was in the UFC at some point, and then he got, I don't remember.
None of us
I guess
know
that's the whole
anybody
premise.
who's ever been on Tough in the last like 5 years.
Hey.
Yeah, it's just I'm in a couple
Hayat
Discords and they
Hassan,
tagged me.
Hey, isn't it crazy how
It's just-
Robert Whittaker was a tough guy?
No, it makes perfect sense now after the Duplessis fight. That is absolute team ultimate fighter behavior.
Are we
Yeah,
calling
tough.
Robert Whittaker bad right now?
Yes,
Let's
I am.
go! He's
Benio.
in, Benio! Welcome
Because
to the,
if we're calling Robert Whittaker bad, I'm all in.
Are we doing the revisionism? Let's go. Come on.
Sorry, me and Fania were always on the Sean Strickland team.
Sean Strickland is actually peak MMA.
Only because he's
Sean
not in
Strickland-
boxing. Then he'd be peak boxing.
Matt just
Yeah,
commented
Sean
that
Strickland
our sport
beat
sucks.
the kickboxing allegations. So now MMA is better than kickboxing.
Yeah,
I don't decide.
Where's Lucas?
I don't decide the rules.
Does
Sean
Wonder Boy
Strickland is the only
Wonder Boy
MMA
a
fighter
better
with a true Muay Thai style.
Is Wonder Boy a better striker than Sean Strickland? And if yes, how did Sean Strickland?
To be completely honest, it's kind of close. It's like
weird.
they're not very apart. To be honest, they are very different styles, but when it comes to quality, they are like kind of up there.
Oh,
Yeah, there's kind of no way that Wonder Boy wouldn't just get kicked to shit against Izzy, right? Like he'd just eat every leg kick and die at range.
I don't know. I mean, like he was an undefeated kickboxer, 57-0.
Much to consider.
Wonder Boy's easy to leg kick if you push him back, but if you just try and pick him off, he's actually really difficult. He's good at countering them.
Yeah,
It would
he's
be
like
hard
the
for him to
one.
get somebody who's as long as him, though.
He's like the one guy
that's
in
my
MMA that it's good at evading kicks from a side-on wide stance. If you can move it backwards, as Ryan said, it's very easy to like kick him. But
Yeah, my thought
But
was
he has,
more
like-
just that like. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
he has like decent ring craft. I mean, had in his prime, he looked
Yeah,
very
he's,
shocked.
like, old as
in
The
last
shot cuff
fight.
fight was not a good look. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
looked like trash.
okay, what the fuck do you want him to do? He's ancient and has a style that doesn't work well for the ancients.
He's like 41, right?
He is.
I think he's
40.
like
Is he
40.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want me to just bring you?
Wonder middle-aged man.
What?
Wonder that.
Matt, what? Matt's got ADHD and he said he's got to move, but he doesn't actually have ADHD. I think he's just on coke again.
I do have it.
No, I that's what I'm saying. I think this is just Matt on a coke binge.
Respect.
Respect.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Yo, Matt, tell him all the competitions you did while coked out of your fucking mind.
I have a recorded.
Did you do better or worse?
I stopped the recording, but that's on YouTube forever. Oh man, it's not. I'm just kidding. I'm obviously just kidding. Yo, Kobe, Jelton versus Lewis was actually fun. No, it wasn't. No,
That's no good.
no. Sorry.
What points?
Are you in the Discord? You've got to leave the Discord. Oh my God.
Who said that? What?
It's
Jailton?
in the YouTube
No, come
chat.
on,
It's
dude.
YouTube
Nah, I
chat.
thought-
It's YouTube chat.
Yeah. The funny part was just when Jelton was in top mount, he couldn't figure out how to do anything, so he just stood up.
Yo,
And then
When
Lewis
he
just
stood
took a
up, it
second to
was like-
realize- yeah.
It was one of the worst moments of all year when
That was
Jailton
disgusting.
postured up to his feet from mount to land ground and pound. Like
He didn't even land
he completely forgot that you're not controlling your opponent at that stage. Like he
Yeah,
was
just-
surprised when Derek Lewis
Lewis
just
go
like
anywhere,
belly
or did he
flop.
just lie
and
there?
Nah, he went there, but it took a second. Lewis was too used to
Oh,
sitting
okay.
there doing nothing.
Lewis like and Jailton was like, "Oh right, that's why you don't stand up from mount."
Whew.
Hopefully he beats Gon soon. That's going to be a hilarious fight if that happens.
No, he's not. He's fighting Blades.
Yeah, after he beats Blades, I mean, obviously.
Oh, come on. Delta Maida's not beating Chris Blades.
That's true. It's not a title eliminator, so Blades can, he won't beat those
Blades-
allegations, but he'll beat some.
Blades
It's gonna be
always
some random
beats
bullshit
Curtis
where
Blades.
Almeida gets the only knockout of his career.
Yeah, the front
Yeah,
kick's going to
yeah,
land.
that's-
And
The
then he'll
front kick's
never
going to
fight
land
a
this
wrestler
time.
again.
No, he's going to land like a check hook or something that he never does.
I'd
He
like
never
to remind
will.
It's gonna
everyone,
land.
Ryan, just a reminder, Curtis Blades is the biggest name and coolest fighter we interviewed.
I interviewed Clark Gracie.
You interviewed
nobody
Clark
else.
I talked to
Gracie,
Drew
who's not a
Dober.
fighter.
I
He's
talked,
just
I
a
talked to Drew
jiu-jitsu.
Dober.
Again, it's more legit than
Yeah, Sturm did Drew Dober. That's cooler. That counts.
Like, are we really cheating on fighters that have talked to us live?
We're just
So-
praising Drew Dober.
I mean, Drew Dober
on in
is
that interview.
Drew
Dober did.
Dober
Drew
was
Dober is
shirtless
very
the
handsome.
entire interview, laying in his bed with his fucking arm up like this. I remember this. And the entire time I'm thinking, how the fuck is anyone asking him questions? And not just fucking going like, ah, the entire time.
It's okay. I made the interview watchable by being exactly as ugly as he was beautiful. We're fine.
You guys remember the Dennis Bermudez interview with Ed? Where he just spends the
What
whole
you-
time terrorizing it?
Did you ever watch it, Matt?
No.
It's legitimately one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. Ed is
So
sitting
fucking
there
funny.
having a fucking panic attack, it looks like, because Dennis Bermudez is out of his fucking mind. It's amazing.
Not prepared for Bermudez's energy.
It was like, because I think every interview we've had so far was like, yeah, we were like chill, talk to the guys, but they was like generally serious. Dennis Bermudez is having none of this. Just off the fucking walls, off the rails. The only thing that would have been better is if I was on that interview, only because I would have challenged him to do the lemonade thing again. And I think he would do it.
He would.
100%. I'd be like, I bet you can't break your own record. He'd be like, you fuck, I can. I'm going to the store right now to buy lemon juice. And I would have waited for 30 minutes for him to go to the store just to do that shit.
You know he has lemons in his house just for that, right? Like he does it as a party trick anytime someone shows up.
You know what's fucked up? There's like a 40% chance that's true.
40%. Nah.
We have a video game, but
All right, so here's the deal. It's been about 2 hours almost. I am so happy that we were able to at least do this. Hopefully, we were able to get some donations for Tuman's legal fund. I was able to
Did we
donate.
give people the donation link?
It's in the description of the YouTube thing.
Okay.
So either way, I'm gonna share the full. I'm gonna make the video into a a more concise interview for John Nash, and we'll just be able to post that as well. And I'm gonna post it with the link as well. So everybody who's still watching, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for being around for this. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we're able to get some donations, and if you could just share the link, that would be really appreciated on your Twitter, Instagram, wherever it is. Ryan, Saram, and Fanio, thank you guys for jumping on. Really appreciated that as well. It was a lot of fun. We should probably just do a Fight Site Roundtable podcast every once in a while where we just talk shit. So
Yeah, definitely.
Sounds good to me.
yeah. All right. Awesome, guys. Have a great night. Seriously. Thank you so much, everyone,
Yep.
for all your help.
Bye-bye.
And,
Talk to y'all later.
Ryan, thank you for the help with logging in and everything like that. Saram, thank you so much for guiding my boomer ass through all this shit.
No problem.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
And thanks to
Bye-bye.
me too.
All right. Now the fuck do I stop this thing? Stop streaming.